Just imagine you're a king almost 1,000 years ago. You've won battles, you've built cities. You have the power to leave behind whatever legacy you choose. A palace, a fortress, a temple dedicated to the gods. Instead, you build a temple for learning. Just think about that for a moment. Out of everything that could outlive you, you choose knowledge. I don't know about you, but I find that extraordinary. Because once I understood why this place exists, I couldn't stop thinking about it. A place I visited in Hanoi, it's called the Temple of Literature. Long before Vietnam became a country we know today, nearly 1,000 years ago, King Le Tan Tong made a choice that stayed with me long after I left Hanoi. In 1070, he built the Temple of Literature, not as a university, not at first at least, but as a place to honor Confucius and the great scholars whose ideas had shaped generations. Just 6 years later, something remarkable happened. Within those same walls, Vietnam established its first very national university, the Imperial Academy. For centuries, this became the place where princes, nobles, and future administrators came to study before they were entrusted with governing the country. Now, let's think about that for a moment. Before power came learning, before leadership came wisdom. And I think that says something profound about the society that they were trying to build. When I first walked into the Temple of Literature, I didn't know any of this. In fact, I wasn't particularly overwhelmed. It was peaceful. It was very beautiful, it was quiet, but nothing prepared me for what happened over the next few hours that I stayed there. The longer I stayed, the more I stopped seeing a temple and started seeing a civilization thinking out loud. The first thing that caught my attention wasn't the architecture, it was the people. There were students, there were tourists, there were parents and families. Some stood quietly before Confucius, others folded their hands in prayer. And at first, I found that surprising, mildly amusing as well, because we usually associate prayer with health, love, or prosperity. Here, young people had come before an examination, not to ask for good grades, but to ask for wisdom. And that completely changed the way I looked at the building. This wasn't simply a monument preserved for tourists. It was still a part of everyday life. 1,000 years later, learning was still something people approached with reverence. And honestly, I find that incredibly beautiful. As I wandered deeper into the temple, I reached what became one of my most favorite parts of the temple. Rows of giant stone turtles, each carrying an enormous stone tablet. Now at first glance, they obviously looked like magnificent sculptures. But then I began reading them. These weren't just tablets. These tablets were erected during the reign of Emperor Le Tan Tong in the 15th century. And each one records the name of scholars who passed the imperial examinations. I stood there for a long time, not because I recognized any of those names, but because I couldn't get over the idea. Imagine living in a civilization where passing an exam was considered worthy of immortality. That future generations should remember not only kings, but students. Not only rulers, but thinkers. That gave me goosebumps. The turtle itself is one of Vietnam's sacred creatures. It represents wisdom and longevity. And suddenly, the symbolism made sense. Knowledge was not meant to disappear with one generation. It was meant to endure. The temple, the university, the students praying, the scholars' names carved into stone. They weren't separate things. They were all a part of the same idea, that learning is worthy of honor. It was amusing to watch families bringing their children to touch the statues of the crane and the tortoise. Now, I found it amusing that there's an old belief that together the tortoise and the crane represent wisdom, purity and knowledge that endures through generations. And touching them would bring the same wisdom and luck. People gently touched them. I did too. Children smiled. Parents watched, and some of us tourists were amused. Now, whether those rituals bring wisdom or luck isn't really the point. What fascinated me was something else. Every civilization creates rituals around the things it values most. Some cultures create rituals around wealth, others around power. But here, the ritual was around wisdom. I don't think I have ever seen that before. The more I reflected on this, the more one thought refused to leave me. We often think we understand civilizations by reading their history. But I'm no longer sure that's entirely true. I think civilizations quietly reveal themselves through what they choose to honor. And this one built a temple for learning, not because education helped people earn a living, but because knowledge itself was something worthy to be honored. And I think that is a very, very fascinating thing. When I left the Temple of Literature, I wasn't just thinking about Vietnam's history anymore. I was thinking about our world. If someone visited our civilization 1,000 years from now, what buildings would they walk into? What names would they find carved into a stone? What would they conclude we admired? What would they think we believed was sacred? Because perhaps that's the real gift of travel. Sometimes, travel doesn't just teach us about another country, but it also quietly reveals something about our own. I don't think I have encountered a more beautiful question than the one I found inside the Temple of Literature. Let's all think about this for a moment. If someone visited our civilization 1,000 years from now, what would they think we worshipped?